Yeah, so welcome in again, everyone. My name is Michaela Patton. I'm the youth co-chair, as well as Ayana and Charles, who are the other co-chairs. So yeah, we're gonna have a great meeting. If you have any EJ announcements, please make sure to send them to one of us so we can sort them at the end. Um, and yeah, I'll go ahead and pass it off to Charles.
Hello, everybody. I am Charles, Mr. Charles, the co-chair, the other co-chair. And our meeting objectives will be for the CSC members to meet staff from the Air District's Engineering Division, Technology and Implementation Office, their Strategic Incentives Division, and learn how their work can support development of the CERT. So strategic and incentives division is what gives us funding for programs. So make sure you guys ready for hard questions with them. And then we want to share an update of the progress of the East Oakland Community Mapping Project and encourage CSC members to put in your information in the map and share with the rest of the communities. Then, of course, we have our welcome, which we've done, our goals and update, which will be 5 minutes. Our rotation will be of small breakout rooms with BACMed divisions, which I just mentioned those earlier. Then we'll have a break for 5 minutes at 6:50 to 6:55 if we stay on time, but we'll try to do that. Then we have our second rotation, which would be another small breakout rooms with the rest of with those same divisions. We want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to meet everybody and speak their truth to power. And then we'll have our East Oakland Community Mapping Project, our East Oakland Environmental Justice announcements, and then next steps and closeouts. So let's have a great meeting, everybody.
Thank you, Charles.
Hey y'all, it's Carly from CBE, East Oakland Clean Air Project Coordinator here. So just going to explain the initial meeting agreements and note some notes for participation. So firstly, one mic, one voice. Use the raise hand function under the reactions at the bottom of your screen on Zoom. Grace for ourselves and one another. Thirdly, take care of yourselves. Make sure to stretch, drink water, and breathe. I know sometimes I forget to do this, so please don't forget to take care of yourself. Fourthly, community building on Zoom. Use the chat and reaction emojis to inspire and encourage one another. And lastly, for any questions throughout the meeting, please use the Zoom chat. CBE and BACMed staff will be responding to your questions. All right, and yep, community building. So type into the chat your name, pronouns, affiliated organizations, and just a note for CSC members to please raise your hand if you're not able to type into your chat, and we can have you speak out loud.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Alicia Shao. I work in the Air District's Air Quality Planning Division, and wanted to show you this slide. It shows our timeline for our East Oakland Community Emission Reductions Plan. We present this timeline at the start of each of our steering committee meetings to stay connected to the work and where we are in the process. So we are currently in the fall of 2023, where today we will provide an update on the plan's goals, and we are beginning to write additional plan elements. And I'll pass it to our first presenter.
Thanks, Alicia. This is Allison Kirk from BACMed. I'm going to give us a brief update on our goals work. You may remember that last month, when we met, we did a short exercise to sort of gather some information from the group about their collective wisdom on goal development. Next slide, please. So what we learned at the last CSC meeting, we asked ourselves 4 questions. And we had some responses that we collected in our Jamboard. And so since that time, staff collated and kind of bucketed responses, and this is what we found. The answer to question 1 was, what information do we have now that can help us draft the SERP goals? And collectively, the group found that agreed that we have information about health risks, information about emissions inventory, we understand term definitions, we agree on a need for urgency and action, that it's important to put people first, but that people are busy and we need to sort of complain to get action at times, be a loud voice. The next question we asked ourselves is to report and reflect on what we've learned from our own experience setting goals. And folks on the CSC reported that they appreciated the SMART goal framework. You might remember that that was specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. And people, we heard back the same things, the same themes. People said that they supported this approach. They understood the importance of communication and creating consensus, the importance of gathering more knowledge and setting short steps along the ways to achieving goals. Next slide, please. So the third question we asked was, what do you think it's important? What do you think is important when setting the SERP goals? And again, the SMART goal framework came up again. And also the idea that it's important to work with the business community, gather more information, and acknowledge that we face multiple challenges. The community faces multiple challenges, including air pollution and trash, and that funding is needed. And finally, we asked for volunteers to work more on the goal development. And we had 2 interested CSC members and 2 people who may be interested depending on the time commitment. Next slide, please. So next steps are that we need to gather more information before creating the goals. The CSC felt that more information was needed, and staff took some time and reflected and agrees. Next month, we'll hear the results of the community mapping project, which we'll talk more about later today in terms of collecting that information. So that will be one of the input to creating goals. And then December, we'll hear from compliance enforcement staff. They'll report on a 3-year review of complaints and notices of violations, and that will also be an important input to creating goals. So thank you to the volunteers. We will get back to you. We anticipate that the co-leads and the co-chairs will work with volunteers later this fall or in the winter of 24. So I'll stop there and see if there's any questions. Okay, I'll pass it back to Massam. Oh, excuse me. Does it go to Massam?
Yeah, no, this works. Can we have the next slide, please? Thanks, Allison.
Yeah, so this meeting is going to be kind of similar to the last one, where we're going to have a few breakout rooms. So we're going to transition to an activity where we're all going to have an opportunity to meet different staff from the Air District's engineering division, the strategics incentives division, and also the technology implementation office. You're going to hear a little bit more about what they do, how it relates to East Oakland, and be able to kind of ask questions and have a conversation in the small breakout rooms. I will say we are going to popcorn for engagement and participation, so get ready for that. Gonna call in some folks. There's going to be 2 rooms, so there's going to be the main room and then another breakout room. CSC members and members of the public will be assigned to the different rooms. And anyone requiring translation has to stay in the main room. The 3 BACMED requirement departments are gonna rotate, so people are gonna stay in the rooms. And then we'll have presentations for about 10 minutes and then about 15 minutes for Q&A. So yeah, the breakout rooms should open soon.
Thanks,
And-
Michaela. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and open the breakout rooms now. You should have received an invitation to join. If you did not, then you will be staying in this room. All right. I feel most folks have been able to move over. Charles, I'm working with Ayana. She's having a little bit of trouble getting in. Do you mind getting us started?
Of course not. How's everybody doing? I hope everybody is having a good time so far, and that you have an open mind to ask some hard questions and to really like pay attention to how this process works. Because as community members, we really need to be informed in order to ask the questions that need to be asked. So I'm hoping that we'll learn something from Simran and Mr. Barry Young in their presentation. But I would just ask everybody to be ready to ask some questions and participate in this process.
Awesome. Thank you, Charles. Allison, do you want to share your screen so that we can have Simran and Barry talk about their presentation? Is Allison here? Hold on, let me see. Okay. Sorry, folks. It seems Allison was accidentally sent over to the other room. I'm trying to get her back. And in the meantime, Clarissa,
Simran can run with it.
sorry.
Simran can run with it. She knows this pretty good.
Mhm.
I could do it. I just would like for you all to see the slides.
Yeah. Clarissa, can you share your screen in lieu of Allison, please?
Yes, I
Oh,
can.
Allison's back. Okay. Sorry about that, folks.
Carissa's going to share a screen.
You can share your screen, Allison, if you're ready.
Oh,
And Simran, you could just give us a slight introduction on what you're going to be talking about.
Yeah, my name is Simran Doot. I am working in the engineering department. I'm gonna switch to the screen. And I've been in engineering since 2013, and what we mostly focus on is permitting. So I think that that's what everyone seems to have questions about, and that's what the focus of this presentation will be, is our permitting process.
can I confirm that people can see my screen?
Yeah, we can. Thank you, Allison.
Great. All right. You'll tell me when we want to go to next slide, Simran?
Yeah, that sounds good. Let me just get started. Okay, so again, my name is Simran Doot. I am a supervising engineer in the engineering department. Going to give you an overview of our permitting program today. So this presentation will cover the purpose of the permitting program, We'll talk about the legal basis and the authority that we have to evaluate projects under this program. We'll go over the step-by-step process of permitting. So we'll talk about what happens when a permit application is submitted to the Air District. Then we'll take a look at a map of the permitted facilities in East Oakland, and we'll close out by summarizing the opportunities that the public has to participate in this process. Next slide, please. So what is the purpose of the permitting program? The overarching purpose is to protect people and the environment from air pollution. And so how do we do that? We ensure that as a region, we attain and maintain state and federal ambient air quality standards. Federal ambient air quality standards are essentially rules that are set by the US EPA. These standards are designed to limit the levels of specific pollutants in the air. Some of those pollutants are particulate matter, nitrogen oxides, and oh, our screen.
Sorry about that. Can you see the thing again?
So yeah, we can see it now.
Okay.
Particulate matter, nitrogen oxides, and volatile organic compounds, and some others. So to maintain those federal standards, the Air District must ensure that the concentration of those pollutants in the air stay below certain levels. And so how does the Air District do that? Well, that's through our permitting program, which plays a vital role. It ensures that when there's new sources of air pollution, like factories or power plants in the Bay Area, that they follow those strict rules and controls. Next slide, please.
Hey, Simran, are we going to be doing questions at the end or as we asked during the presentation?
I would prefer them at the end, if that's okay with everyone, just to make sure that we get through the presentation. Okay, so our authority to evaluate projects is through federal and state laws, which establish those standards that I just talked about, but also require the Air District to have a permitting program. So as a result of those laws, our rules division, who you heard from last month, would write regulations for the agency to be applied to sources of pollution so that federal and state laws are met in the Bay Area. And when those regulations are in effect, the engineering department, that would include Barry and I, will review the sources of air pollution, and we make sure that they are meeting those regulations. Next slide, please. So the permitting program that I've been referring to is called New Source Review, or NSR for short. The requirements are outlined in our Regulation 2, Rule 2, if you're interested in learning about it further. But generally, it applies to facilities that install new or make changes to existing equipment that will increase emissions. So it requires a facility to demonstrate that they can meet all the federal and state and local requirements. And if they can demonstrate that they meet these requirements, then a permit is issued. So this program is not static. And what I mean by that is that we're constantly working to make sure that air quality standards are more stringent. We're working to identify additional approaches or technology that we can implement to reduce emissions. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this slide because what happens when an air permit application is submitted to the Air District? Well, this slide shows the permitting step-by-step process so that I hope it becomes a little bit more clear because I know there are a lot of questions. First, an engineer will review the application for completeness. So that means talking to the applicant, really understanding the process and fully ensuring that we know what is being applied for. Then once we understand what the project is, we will prepare calculations, possibly conduct a site visit if we need more information. If a health risk assessment is needed, which is a computer modeling assessment that we use to determine the chance that a project will make exposed people sick. The modeling will be conducted, and the outcome of that health risk assessment is compared to thresholds in Regulation 2.5. So I'm going to pause here because I think that further explanation needs to be given for these first 4 to 5 steps. And it's really because this is sort of the bulk of where we do our work. Typically, when an application comes in and we review it, we'll do the calculations and we'll check to see if it complies with all the regulations. And if it doesn't, or if it isn't meeting the certain standards that we have in our rules, we'll go back and we'll say, hey, to the applicant, hey, you need to revise your project. It's not complying with the rules. And that there's a certain way we can do that. So I'll give you an example here. Say an applicant applies to permit an engine, and they want to permit that engine for operational use of 400 hours per year. And we then determine what the emissions would be for 400 hours per year. We may do a health risk assessment, and then we determine, hey, the risk is actually going to be greater than the thresholds in our regulation that would allow you to operate at 400 hours per year. If you were to operate at 400 hours per year, we cannot issue this permit because it's not meeting the rules. But what we can do is say, maybe at 300 hours per year, this engine would comply with those regulations. Or say, if you put on a control device to reduce emissions on this engine, it would also comply. There's other things we can do, maybe move the location of the engine so it's further away from people that are exposed, increase stack height, various things. So I wanted to pause here because the first few 4 to 5 steps of this process are really the bulk of what we're doing. And once we can determine that that a project complies with all of our regulations, we can deem it complete. And when we deem it complete, now we move on to the next sort of icon there that's got the news. It will initiate a public comment period. So every permit that's, once it's deemed complete, has a 10-day public comment period where we allow the public to review our draft evaluation, to comment on it, and we will respond to all comments. Next, we will draft the permit conditions, and in those permit conditions, we will set emissions limits, we will set operating limits, we will require testing or monitoring. So going back to our example of the engine, if we determined that this engine can only operate if they maintain operating hours less than 300 hours per year, we will put that in the permit conditions because that's part of the permit. It cannot exceed 300 hours per year. Or if we determine that a diesel particulate filter is needed to abate emissions, then we will put that in the permit conditions. And so when the permit conditions are written in a way that we can ensure compliance with our regulations, it will be, we can then issue the authority to construct. So our permitting process is a two-phase process. I guess that's how I would describe it. We first issue the authority to construct with those permit conditions attached. And an authority to construct gives the applicant the authority to essentially build the equipment or purchase the equipment and have it on site. So going back to our example of the engine, if they receive a authority to construct, that's only then can they bring the engine on site and can they start up the engine. So our permit conditions sometimes also require certain monitoring to be done or testing of the equipment to be done before we can issue the next phase of the permit. So once the engine is in place, and they do source testing on it. Our source test team at the Air District will review the test. They will vet it very thoroughly. They will ensure that the proper methods were done. They will ensure that the procedures were done properly, that the pollutants that we need tested were tested for. And if they verify that the test was done properly and that test determined that the equipment is complying with our regulations, they will approve the test. Once engineering has the approved test and we've determined compliance with all of our regulations, now we can issue the permit to operate. So now the facility has demonstrated compliance with our regulations and they have a permit in hand that would allow them to operate their equipment within the confines of our permit conditions. So now this applicant can operate the engine for 300 hours per year, but no more to run their operation. After the permit to operate is issued, then we will have our inspectors from our compliance and enforcement section, who I think you also heard from last month, go out there and do inspections of the site and determine if compliance is continuing to occur. We can also determine continued compliance with our regulations through periodic testing, and that we can require that annually or sometimes on a 5-year basis. If it's a handheld device, we can require that on a quarterly basis. So that's essentially the process. I know I've spoken a lot about it. It is quite complex, and I hope that I did a good enough job of explaining that to you. I know there are questions. I'm happy to take those questions at the end, and I'll just go through the next few slides so that I can kind of better explain some of this process also. Thank you, Allison. All right, so just to kind of touch on the major components of our review that I just discussed in the last slide, these are not nearly all of our regulations, but common sort of like major components of our review. And we review projects to determine if best available control technology is required. You might hear that come up a lot. Best available control technology, or BACT, is a way that we can ensure that a new or modified source is using the most effective and up-to-date methods to control a pollution. So it's like using the best tools and techniques available to keep the air clean and safe. And the Air District is constantly researching what technology is being used out there. And if BACT is triggered, that's what this new source would have to implement. Another major component of review is offsets. Offsets is a way of ensuring that overall for our region, there isn't an increase of a certain pollutant. It's a mechanism that we use to help balance the impact of new sources of pollution so that total pollution in the entire region does not increase. Another major component is our health risk assessment, which I kind of talked about last time. We'll do a modeling assessment to determine what the risk is to the impacted community. And just last year, we reduced the threshold for risk in overburned communities as a way to sort of lessen the exposure that they're already experiencing. Next slide, please. We ensure that the rules of CEQA are met. CEQA is a law that requires state and local agencies to analyze the impacts of proposed projects. So before we can issue an air quality permit, we need to make sure that CEQA has already been done, or it has been that requirement is satisfied before we can issue a permit. Typically, CEQA is done by another agency, and the Air District generally acts as a responsible agency instead of a lead agency. And then finally, public notice is a major component of our review. we recently added additional public comment opportunities for projects in overburdened communities to increase transparency. And I'll talk about this in a little bit more detail in another slide. So next slide, please.
Before you go on, I just wanted to let you know, Simran, that you have a couple of CSC members who have questions regarding the information that was already put out.
Would you?
Yes, thank you. And we need to address our CSC members and not be so focused on completing the presentation.
Okay,
This
I
is
just
about
wanted
us
to got
understanding.
through everything, but that's
No
okay.
worries.
You to pause to take questions.
Thank you. I appreciate it, dude.
Yeah, no worries.
Go ahead, you guys.
I'll come up off of mute. It's Jamaica. Thank you, Simran, and thank you, Mr. Charles, and Ayana. I had a question as far as like the public notice, and apologies if you said that. I was trying to be as attentive as possible with, all the information you were giving us, which is good, but what modalities are used to ensure that the community is aware and meet the said deadlines in order to actually be effective in like responding?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I think so. That's kind of where I think we need more public input, because what we have is available is on our website. So on our website, you can go on. I think you can sign up for alerts to be notified of like when a public notice has begun, or what is on our website, to just kind of check to see like what new applications came in and then when that public notice begins. But that's something that we're working on internally to improve, because I think that we don't get a lot of comments during that time. And so that needs to be, I mean, it just maybe is something that we're not outreaching enough. So at this point, I don't know if Barry, do you know of another way that people would be notified other than having to sign up for alerts? But
yeah, we have the e-blast alerts. Also, we have we have the permit applications, that there's a search engine that that folks can follow. They're able to look at applications and see what the status is on that application.
yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
and one of my last slides shows exactly where you could go to see those notices.
No, I appreciate that. I think probably, and maybe through this process, and obviously, putting a pin in it, but I would say it would behoove y'all as an agency to really be able to ask the community what other modalities, and to be quite frank, I think we already know what those modalities are. And if COVID didn't tell us enough about the lack of broadband, certain areas not even be able to, get it, and being able not to have this access. Yeah, I think, all of the public, as much as we can inform them, they should be informed so that decisions or notices don't go unnoticed to them, because it really is, affecting the communities that they're living in. So that would just, obviously be my recommendation, is somehow, some way, and even within this space, to see how it is that we can collectively give you those suggestions or recommendations, because moving forward, for East Oakland communities not to be informed when these public notices go out, it is again furthering the health disparities as it relates to like environmental justice, which is public health. I mean, I can go on and on, but I'm going to pause there.
Okay, no, thank you, Jamaica. I appreciate that feedback. We're working also with our Community Advisory Council, who I know that Charles is a part of. And so we're hoping to bring up this issue actually next week when we speak to them, and try to get their insight on community outreach. I think that that's one area that we can improve.
Can I note and say one thing? If the CSC members have any suggestions, like now would be the time. Like if you guys have suggestions on solutions, now would be the time. And they can then put it in their next meeting and maybe assist in that matter.
Okay, I'll put some things in the chat.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ayana, for saying that.
That would be helpful, yes. Yeah, we're doing quite a bit more public
You have a
notices.
couple of more questions though,
Oh,
Barry.
oops, okay, all right, go ahead. Next question.
I'll go next. Thank you for folks for pausing for questions, because I know there's a deep desire to keep going. But when you're in community settings, you really have to put your professional desires aside for the community to speak. So that's my first point. The second point is, and maybe this isn't one of your future slides, but what I'm about to say comes from the context of going on the toxic tour of East Oakland, District 7. And from being on that tour, it was completely devastating to me seeing all these different buildings and entities who have permits, who are able to continue polluting our air and our community. So I say all that for my question to be, in the situations where you have these businesses that did get permits, and I don't know in what state they were able to get these permits, but then show clear examples of polluting our environment and risking the health of the citizens in the community, how then do you interfere when those things happen? Do you pull the permits? Are there consequences? It just feels like there are people that are already here causing harm. And I don't know if your entity plays a role in removing them.
Yeah, so if you, so there shouldn't be, again, I don't know which sources you are referring to specifically, but say you have a source that is. I'm sorry. So say you have a facility that is permitted, but you're seeing visible emissions coming from that. We would definitely want you to report that. And that would be a report to our compliance and enforcement division to go out there and investigate. Because if you're seeing visible dust in the air, you shouldn't be seeing that. And that's where we need sort of your eyes, being in the community to inform us that there is a possible violation there, and that goes to our compliance and enforcement staff. And so then if there is an issue there, that's when we can deal with it on the permitting side, if that is the case that needs to be handled.
Thank you.
Marina, and I'll go after you, Marina.
Sí. Yes. Yes. I'm going to make a comment, okay, about everything that I'm listening to here. I believe that the community is the first that has to find out about what companies or what businesses are going to be set up in the Bay Area, because the community is the one that's going to receive this pollution. Because what I'm referring to is what they did with the crematorium. When the community realized they had already approved their permits, and it was too late for us to do anything. We worked really hard, but because there wasn't much information to the community, I would ask to the community that was close to the crematorium, and they said that they were never even asked. There was never any surveys. There was no way of being notified of that, what was going to be put there. So sometimes these businesses, I don't know how they are functioning, right, for those who have these laws, but they don't even notify the community of what they're going to be putting in these places. I believe that we should, as a community, we should be present in everything from the beginning from the beginning of where something is going to be built, a company or whatever it's going to be, the community needs to be present first, because we should be able to approve also these projects, and we should approve the projects we want in our community. Thank you.
So I just want to say something that I hear community all the time. I hear that word. Oh, we want community involved. But this presentation was more of a lecture than a community engagement exercise. And we would like for you to respect community in these presentations and think about focusing on whether we understand what you're speaking of, as opposed to you finishing your presentation. And I really felt offended by that presentation. I just mean to say that based on the fact that you have to stop to ask questions or to let questions be asked so you know if people are following along. And if the focus is just on finishing your presentation, then that's not the job that you're really hired to do. The job is to help educate and empower community members. And so I'm gonna stop with that, because I don't want to sound like I'm being too harsh on you. But as a co-chair, I have to say that. I have to say that, because we cannot have any more presentations where we're being lectured to and not being educated.
No, I appreciate that feedback. I apologize. My mindset was to kind of, I was told to explain what permitting does. And so I just wanted to make sure that there's a lot to go over, and I just didn't want anyone to miss out on information because our time is limited. So I apologize for that. And I appreciate that feedback. And I definitely, in our next breakout, will handle it differently. I apologize.
And that's why I said that, Simran, because I want you guys to use our time is just as valuable as your time. And I want you to use that time valuable for our community members to walk away feeling like they're educated and they have a better understanding of how the process works and how they can become a part of it. So
yeah, okay, I get that. Thank you. I will. I take that. I understand now. I see that that's probably the best approach. So I apologize.
Oh, no, it's cool. Because we're learning how to do this. This is all of our first time.
Yeah, like Charles said, to piggyback off of that, this is our first time meeting each other, communicating with each other. So, there may, our communication styles are different, but, like this is more of a group that they're more inquisitive about what's going on in the neighborhood. So sometimes we're out of touch with terms and jargons. So that may be another thing as well.
Okay.
But all in all, we understand, and we thank you for coming and trying to educate us and give us some information. We are very appreciative. But just like if you wanted to do more outreach, might I suggest the city of Oakland is just now awarded grants through Activate Oakland, and they will have, they're paying people to do happenings all over East Oakland. So maybe you visit Oakland. There's a department called Visit Oakland, and they can give you information on these happenings, and possibly you could table at some of them and get the information out. So that's just a resource that I wanted to put out there. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Go ahead.
Thank you for that.
Does anybody else have any questions before we move on?
Yeah, I think they said we have like 2 minutes left, but I do want to thank you guys for the actual presentation. The subject matter was easy to follow. It is just, man, you want to bring community along with you. And that's the important thing.
No, I honestly wish we had more time. Because I think that this is, I mean, they asked us to pack this up into a 10-minute presentation, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to put that in 10 minutes. But that's why I was like, well, let me just get through it and see. Because
Right.
And we're
And
fighting.
that's okay.
Yeah, we're fighting behind the scenes to make sure that you have the time to do a presentation where community walk away with understanding as opposed to trying to fit it into a time frame. So, and that's the main thing, because for all of us out here that don't do this every day, it's not easy for us to retain everything when we hear it all in one clump.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's all we saying is, and then like words like ambient, man, say outside. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the jargons throw everybody off because you got to understand this is East Oakland culture. So you're presenting to a bunch of East Oaklanders, and we don't use those kind of words, you know, intimately, like between in our conversation. So you know, that's okay.
Noted. Keep that in mind.
Yeah, we all in this together. Thank you though, because it was some great information.
All right.
But did anybody else, before we close out, did anybody else have anything to say? I definitely want to thank you for coming.
Oh, really excellent questions, and the input on the modalities is going to be very helpful. So appreciate it all.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm glad he mentioned that, because that is outdated. And there needs to be more community input in how these statistics are determined. And that's what Jamaica was saying. We know what we need, but y'all not really listening to us. You saying you are, but you're really not. And that's how we honestly feel.
I have one more question, more about
Andrea, you're breaking
Andrea,
up.
you're breaking up.
The capacity, or if they need more, and are they hours for the machines?
Andrea, we couldn't hear you. You're breaking up. Could you put your question in the chat and we'll make sure we get back to you? Okay. I think there's some issues with Andrea's internet. Folks, we should also be going into break now. Oh, okay. Yeah, if Simran and Barry want to respond to Andrea's question in the chat, the rest of us can take a short break for 5 minutes, be back by around 6:57, and we'll switch the presenters from one room to the other.
Masim, can somebody take Carol Core's question, because she's not very good at doing the inputting, but I saw her hand raised.
Marina's question or Andrea's?
Miss Cunningham, my bad, Miss Cunningham.
Okay. Yeah, I see there's something going on with her connection as well. Well, if folks want to stick around for a bit, we can answer the rest of the question.
Yes, I just wanted to say this.
You can stick around.
That we are discussing a whole lots of things, and I know that is a lot of research has gone into this this lecture, but at the same time, we need to have a timeline on these different subjects that we're talking about. We need to have a timeline, because that's very important. You can talk all you want, but if you don't set a timeline on something, you won't get nothing done. You got to have a timeline to get some of these things taken care of. Thank you.
Tell them, Ms. Cunningham.
And Ms. Cunningham, I want to be sure that we understand what your statement. Do you mean that we need to have a timeline when we're going to be educated on certain things?
That's what I'm speaking of. That's exactly what I'm speaking of. Whatever subject we have to speak on, we need to have a timeline on getting these things done. To just talk about something and no action done, it's no good. You got to have a timeline on whatever you're trying to get done.
I'm so glad you said that, Ms. Cunningham. Please stick around for announcements.
And this is what we get to have. We have somebody on the iPhone. I don't know who that is. Do you know who that is, Masam?
Let's see. I think it's Jerry.
Oh, hello, this is Jerry. I also want to say, first of all, I'm at a conference, so I'm sorry. I'm listening in from a conference, but I think, I don't know in the beginning, like when the chairs, if you meet with the speakers beforehand to give your expectation of what we can't just assume that somebody who's presenting knows what they're supposed to be doing to whoever the audience is. We can't assume that. So I'm thinking when you guys meet with the presenters before we even have our meeting, you can set the tone or the standard or what you guys would like to see or have happen. Because I think that was kind of rude, actually, on how it came to her. I hope she's not offended, but I think that whatever you guys want out of the meeting, you should set that precedence before we even have the meeting. Mm-hmm. And that's just, I almost wanted to hang up because I think the presentation, her slides, I'm a professional. I go to professional meetings and I think her slides were professional, but maybe she just didn't understand how she was supposed to bring us along. You know what I mean? But I just think that you guys should do your part to meet with her before, tell them what you want, who her audience is, and then she can be prepared and not caught off guard and then bash because she didn't do it correctly. I don't like that. That ain't why I'm on this board or this committee. So we got to do better. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I do believe that your comments around the general respect that we have for one another are deeply important. And as a team, we're sorry if we kind of came off in a way that's disrespectful. We do have meetings before, and we go over some of the information, but I do see what you're saying. There are different ways of handling things. I really appreciate you sharing that. Thank you.
And Jerry, me and you've spoken before, and I didn't mean no offense. I just felt like it's important that when we have these presentations, and you are right, that as co-chairs, we should have more say so, but we don't. All the time we don't. And that's just the honest to God truth. Sometimes these presentations are already set in how they're going to be done, and we have minimal impact. And so I'm glad to hear you say that about us needing to have more impact as co-chairs, because we feel the same way. And I apologize if I offended anybody, because that is never my intent. My intent is always to support the edification of the community. And so, and I hope I did give Simran credit for those beautiful slides.
Thank you all for sharing. We'll need to transition to our next speaker now, if we're all right with that, folks.
Okay, and we already took our, I'm sorry, DJ, we already took our break. Make sure everybody's back.
We can take a couple of minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to switch presenters over. We should be starting again around 7. Simran, Barry, hopefully you got an invite to join the other room.
Yes. Should we join now?
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you, we
everyone.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Nice meeting you.
It was a pleasure. Okay, and now the presenters are switching rooms. Okay,
yes.
I'll take a second. Give me 1 second.
Jamaica.
Está bien, yo aquí. You can't hear me. Hello? Awesome.
Yes.
I'm wondering if we should remind folks that we have a Jamboard that they can take, they can write down comments. I
Yeah.
did write them down, but I didn't see anybody else doing it, so I think they might have forgotten.
Yeah, if you could share that in the chat again, that would
I
be
will,
great.
yeah.
I'm working on getting the other speakers over. Hold on.
Awesome. Alona and I are both here. I think we're ready to get started whenever you are.
Oh, great. Sorry. I didn't see you there. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Actually, let me see. Alona, are you here?
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah, great.
Perfect. Allison, if you could share your screen again, and Charles or Ayana, either of you, if you want to welcome our speakers.
Yes, Alona and Tin, I want to thank you guys for showing up today to address our steering committee members on how we can impact this system and make it better for those of us who've been disenfranchised, especially when it comes to incentives. So I'm gonna pass it off to Alona, I believe.
I'll actually start
My
us off.
bad.
That's
Go
okay.
ahead, Tim.
No worries. Yeah. Can we get the slides up?
So you can't see my slides, is that what you're saying?
No, we can't.
Okay, let me try again. Bear with.
I can also pull up the slides too, Allison, if you're having some troubles.
Okay, let me try one more time. Okay. Okay. Is this working now?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Thank you.
Great. Good evening, everybody. My name is Tin Lee, and I work at the Air District in the Technology Implementation Office. And I'm joined by Alona Davis, who works in our Strategic Incentives Division. The purpose of this meeting is to give a brief overview of the incentive programs that we help administer so that you're aware of the types of fundings that we have and that we can provide and the different sectors that we cover. We won't have enough time to get into the details of each individual program, but if you want to know more about any of the programs specifically, you can reach out to Alona or myself, and we'll connect you with the appropriate staff members that work on each of these programs. Before we get started on the incentive programs, though, let me take a step back and talk about the role of incentives and how they can be used to help reduce emissions in our communities. You heard earlier from Simran about the role of the engineering division. So the Air District has regulatory authority over stationary sources through our rules and permitting and enforcement. Examples of the stationary sources include refineries, gas stations, and dry cleaners. But what the Air District does not have is authority over our mobile sources or the transportation sector in general. That authority lies with the California Air Resources Board, and they set the emission standards for the mobile sources across the state. Next slide, please. Because we don't have this regulatory oversight with mobile sources, we use grants and incentives as tools to help reduce emissions in the transportation sector and for other mobile equipment as well. And these are incentives that are voluntary, meaning that they go above and beyond what is required by regulations and rules. Incentives are used to help clean up sources of air pollution. They help inspire newer, cleaner technologies and encourage adoption of technologies that are cleaner, like examples are zero emission vehicles. There are some important considerations though when it comes to our incentive programs. We receive a variety of different funding from local sources, from the state, from federal funds, and all of these funds come with very specific guidelines and restrictions on how the funding can be used. Incentives are not always provided upfront for our programs. Sometimes our grants are reimbursements, which are similar to a rebate. And that means that if you get a grant, you may have to pay for the project or equipment up front, and then you would get reimbursed the grant award afterwards. Incentives generally don't cover the entire cost of a project. So oftentimes matching funds are required to fully fund a project. And also new programs that we develop at the Air District take a significant amount of time to develop and create. Next slide, please. So the Air District has incentive programs for both residents and businesses or public agencies. The programs on this slide are specifically for individual residents. The Clean Cars for All program provides up to $9,500 for income qualified residents to scrap an older car and replace it with a newer used clean vehicle. Examples are a conventional hybrid, a plug-in hybrid, an electric vehicle, or a fuel cell vehicle. Now, if someone doesn't actually want to replace their vehicle with another vehicle, they have the option to select the mobility option, and we give up to $7,500 towards public transit or e-bikes. You can get a combination of both of these. The next program is called the Vehicle Buyback Program, and this program provides $1,200 to retire a model year 1998 or older vehicle. This is a voluntary program, so if you own like an old classic car, obviously you're not going to turn in the vehicle for $1,200. But this program helps us remove higher polluting vehicles on the road, and there's no requirement to replace the vehicle with another vehicles. You get a check for $1,200 and you can do whatever you want with it. And then we're working on a wood smoke reduction program, which provides grants to help replace a wood burning stove or a fireplace insert with an electric heat pump. And we anticipate opening this program by the end of the year. This program itself is a pretty small program with very limited funding. So we're only going to be able to change out around 270 wood stoves, and we'll be prioritizing applications from CERP communities. And then also income qualified residents within these communities will also be eligible for additional funding. Next slide, please. These are some of the incentives that we have for businesses and public agencies. The first one is the CHARGE program, which provides. Yeah.
I just want to let you know that we have a person with their hand up. Mr. Charles has his hand up. Do you want to ask your question?
Sorry about that, Charles. I didn't see.
Oh, oh no. I would prefer if you have a few hands up, if you take time to answer questions, if you have a few hands up, but not just for one.
Okay. Sorry for jumping in.
Okay.
Go ahead, Tin.
Sure. So just to backtrack, The charge program provides grant funds to help install public accessible charging stations at workplaces, transit parking locations, transportation corridors, and multifamily housing. Multifamily housing projects themselves, there's actually an exemption that we can provide for to be exempt from the publicly accessible requirement because we know that charging at homes, at multifamily homes are difficult to access. So sometimes the parking needs to be restricted just for residents themselves. The next program is our Clean Air Centers, which provides portable air cleaners, ventilation upgrades, or air filter replacements for counties to deploy at publicly accessible clean air centers. And these are really meant to deal with wildfires and other like high smoke events. The next program is called the Climate Tech Finance Program. And this program provides loan guarantees that help entrepreneurs access lower interest rate loans to develop technologies that reduce greenhouse gases. And finally, the last program that I'm going to cover is the Bikeway program. And we're considering developing a Bikeways program in the next 1 or 2 years to provide grants to public agencies to help construct and install bikeways. And I think I'll pass it over to Alona to go over some more programs and talk about additional funding that we have.
Well, I do have a question now.
Sure.
Because my co-chair, Ayana, is very concerned about having emergency relief stations. And it seems to me like this Clean Air Center would fit into what we're talking about, where we allow people during certain like fire situations where our city turning gray, that they could come to a place where BACMed has a facility to actually get water, masks, and be able to just sit in a clean air space and be out of that area. So are these the kind of grants that BACMed could work with the CERP on trying to get to help relieve some of the stress and pressure on our community members during emergencies?
Yeah, so the Clean Air Centers, we received about $3 billion in funding, and that's for the entire Bay Area. Most of the funds have already been accounted for, and we do have actual sites that have been funded in East Oakland, and I don't have the list with me right now, but we also have an actual, I think, a map where you can actually look and identify where these are. But let me see if I can find a way to share this information with the rest of the group.
Yes. Right. Because for somebody like Ayana, who works with the unhoused population, that's something that she should easily be able to access. And as a co-chair of the CERP, this is type of information that should be readily accessible to us all of the time for all of our CERP members. And so could we work on developing a mechanism where all of our CERP members can find out this information easily and accessible?
Sure, I think we can find a way to help share information about our incentive programs, I think is what you're asking for. I'll have to work with, I think, Anish and some other folks to see what we can do to help share that information.
Okay, well, it doesn't have to be overnight. When you get the information, is there a way that you can email it to us?
Yeah, I'm actually looking up the map for the air centers, and hopefully I can share that before the presentation is over.
And not to slow down the presentation. So with this Clean Air Centers, will we have to match funds, like you said earlier, or put the funds in advance in order to be reimbursed for them in this program?
No, this one is, and I'm sorry if I cut you off, but this one is a little bit different. We actually there's different components. So for the HVAC upgrades, that one we would work with the counties to have them pay for it, and then I think we would reimburse them. But for the air filters, the portable air cleaners, we buy them and then we distribute them.
Okay. Thank you so much. If anybody has any questions on this section, feel free to ask before we move on.
And I just dropped the link to a map so y'all can see the areas where we funded some projects. There's also boundaries too, so you can select the East Oakland boundary itself.
Looks like Marina has a question.
Marina, you're on mute.
Sí, yo tengo una. Sí.
Yes, I do have a question. Years ago, I got a card where you could get money for trading in or exchanging your car. I think long time ago, because I had an old car, I called and that my car was not eligible. Until today, I'm hearing or learning that from 1998 or older, is that right? Is that right? To be eligible for any person that's got an old car, and then they could be able to get 1,200.
Is there someone to translate for us?
Yes.
Were you not on the English channel?
Yeah, can you go to interpretation and switch to an English channel? That we have simultaneous interpretation available.
Tin, I can also, I can tell you what the question was, I think.
Yeah.
So Marina recalls that she got a notice about the vehicle buyback program, and I think she is saying that at the time her car wasn't old enough, but she wants to confirm that now if your car is a 1998 or older, that you can get it, turn it in and get $1,200. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. I think we just recently upgraded the increased the model year. It used to be 96 and then it went to 97 and now it's 98.
Marina, let me know if I didn't get all your questions right.
Yo creo que sí es correctamente.
Yes, I think you did answer it correctly, because you were saying that 1998 or older, right?
Correct.
Okay, gracias.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
And let's get back on with the presentation, everybody.
Miss Cunningham has her hand up as well.
Oh, another one? Okay. Ms. Cunningham? Cecilia?
You're not unmuted.
All right, I'm sorry, honey.
No.
Okay, I wanted to say this, that Batman gonna have to start thinking about the seniors in these communities, the ones that really need accessible Lord, it was on my mind, these ramps. The ramps that need to be, we need some type of ramps for seniors, because I personally need one myself, and I have looked into that. And because a lot of people have walkers and wheelchairs, and we need to have something to help our community. Because we have a lot of seniors that are on walkers, wheelchairs, whatever, and we need help.
Is that something that the Bikeways project could help?
That's a good question.
I try to ask good questions.
You do a good job.
The Bikeways is really focused on getting people out of cars and onto bikes and having safe bikeways for people to ride bikes. So it doesn't really fall under that program. We don't, to my knowledge, have, programs that would cover ramps for seniors, but it's not necessarily related to air quality, and so our incentive programs don't fund those types of upgrades.
But it is accessibility though. That's the main thing for the handicap. We need more accessibilities to get around.
So what kind of ADA accessibility programs do you guys actually have in regards to what the question that Ms. Cecilia is asking? Because this will be the same thing as an incentive, ADA accessible program. So it would fit under the same thing.
Yeah, we typically don't have any programs. Most of our programs are all air quality related. So there has to be an impact. The only thing that I can think of that has a little bit of impact for ADA accessibility is for the charging station programs. We do require like that, like if we're giving funding for charging for chargers, that they need to follow state requirements, and state requirements do require that if you're installing a certain number of chargers, some of them have to be in parking spaces that are accessible. That's the only thing that I can really think about.
Can you do some research on that? And can you do more research on that? And
Yeah, I will. I'm taking notes down. And I will. I'll see if there's any incentives. It'll probably be another agency.
Okay.
I'll see if that can help with this, and possibly even like maybe fall under the city. But let me take a look at that, and
I really would appreciate that, because we really need more resources for our seniors. Because if you keep on living, you're gonna get there too one day. So
some of us are already there.
Provide things now.
Thank you, Miss Cecilia. That was a good question. And go ahead, Tin. You go move on.
Thank you. I can go ahead and take over and move on to the next slide. These are all really, really good questions. And we'll have more time for questions after I get through just 2 more slides. So this slide gives an overview of one of our longest running grant programs here at the Air District. It provides incentives to private businesses and public agencies that operate heavy duty diesel equipment. And the goal of this program is to reduce diesel emissions through replacing old dirty vehicles and equipment with newer equipment, and to encourage zero emission equipment where that technology is available. The categories covered in this program are shown here. Under the heavy duty truck and bus category, we mostly fund only new zero emission replacements, since electric trucks and buses are readily available to purchase. The freight and marine category includes locomotives and cargo handling equipment you might find at the port, but potentially other locations where locomotives move cargo to and from. Off-road equipment, off-road mobile equipment can be found at various types of industrial locations and warehouses. And on the far right-hand side, the infrastructure category, this program also funds infrastructure for projects that support zero emission equipment. So things like electric charging stations for electric school buses or electric trucks. This program overall has potential to reduce diesel particulate matter exposure in communities adjacent to these types of operations. And while we generally open our programs for eligibility throughout the Bay Area, it is our goal to conduct focused outreach in our served communities to reach the owners and operators of this type of equipment and encourage them to apply to our programs. And I'll just mention that applying for these funds is not a guarantee of funding. We have many eligibility, compliance, and cost share requirements around funding this upgrades to equipment. And we also monitor the new equipment for many years after the grantees paid to ensure we're getting emissions reductions that we expect. So that's kind of an overview of our programs, and I'll move on to our final slide. You know, that you heard about a bunch of different programs and the types of projects that we fund, but you might also be wondering, where do we get our funding from to fund these different types of air quality programs? The Air District receives many sources of local, state, and funding, federal funding that we mentioned previously, and these can be used for incentive programs to reduce emissions throughout communities. One specific source of funding is the CAP program, the Community Air Protection Incentive Fund. This source of funding was created at the state level as part of the AB 617 initiative. These funds, I'll just mention, are different than CAP implementation funds that the Air District uses to support its work with community groups and community steering committees as they develop their community emission reduction plans. The CAP incentive funds require air districts to really prioritize funding to the types of programs and projects that can achieve emissions and exposure reductions in AB 617 communities and other disadvantaged communities throughout the Bay Area. And specifically for projects that support the emission reduction strategies that are written into the CERPs, the Community Emission Reduction Plans. A couple of examples where we've used CAP funds in the last couple of years under our diesel replacement and infrastructure program. One is that the Air District used CAP funds to partially fund AC Transit's project to transition from diesel to zero emission transit buses, which benefit both East Oakland and West Oakland. And then an example of supporting West Oakland's CERP strategy to reduce diesel emissions at the Port of Oakland, we've funded several upgrades to equipment and things like tugboats and cargo handling equipment at the port. So I just want to say that through this CERP development process, we really hope to learn from this committee what the priorities and the needs of East Oakland community are, so we can consider where incentives might be the right approach to cleaning up pollution. But with that said, the Air District can also take advantage of other sources of local, state, and federal funding where possible to help target reductions through incentive programs. But it should also be mentioned that we're not the only source of funds out there, and we don't have programs or expertise for all types of air quality projects. Businesses and public agencies like the City of Oakland can utilize other state and federal grant programs that may be better suited for certain types of projects or initiatives within the community. And we, can certainly help to make those connections as well. So that's all I have. And I hope this overview gave you a sense of the variety of grant programs we have and that we administer here, and what types of sectors we target to achieve emissions reductions. And Tin and I can answer any other questions that you all have.
Looks like Charles has his hand up.
Yes, this is for understanding of the possibilities of what our CERP could be. So if our CERP found a project that we felt would reduce emissions, and we said, hey, we want to file for a grant to do this project. So then us as a CERP, if we agree on that and we have a partner that could do the matching fund part, then that means you guys would be able to fund that project.
I think it really kind of depends on what the project is. So in the process of developing the CERP and coming up with your strategies and sort of figuring out how you can achieve a certain goal, we can work with you to discuss what a project might look like. And if it was something that the funding sources could support in implementing one of the strategies in the CERP. So generally our funding, we could, generally our funding, like we said, it's sort of a voluntary, of voluntary programs where we would take in an application or from a project sponsor, and we would assess that and see what type of funding we can provide. And we'd also want to know if there was other types of funds or other types of grants that this project is also applying for and things like that. So there's a lot that goes into kind of determining what funding is available. But if it's outside of the scope of the types of things you heard about today, it would take a little more of sort of specific back and forth with us to kind of understand what kind of project it is and how best to achieve it, and if incentives is the way to go. If the Air District incentives can help accomplish that, then we would, we could work with you and try to figure out how we might be able to do that. I know that's kind of a vague answer.
Yeah, only reason I was saying that, Alona, and then I'm gonna pass it to Cynthia, is because the incentives you guys offer community members weren't very, is like $1,200. And all the rest of the money you're talking about is big money that goes to organizations, companies, and we don't work for those people. So we have to develop a partnership with those people in order to spend that money. And that's a lot of work for us to do. And so I'm just saying that in our presentations, it should be things that's more focused on how to give community members real incentive to participate in the process. Because like this stuff that you was really talking about, a lot of us wouldn't even be able to think about it. Okay, thank you. It's on you, Cynthia.
Thank you for this presentation. I stepped away for a minute to grab some food, but Tin, you said something that sparked something in my mind, because we're hearing from so many different entities. Is there some sort of like flow chart that kind of lists all of you and like your roles and what you're able to do? And I imagine, things are constantly shifting. I'm just trying to get like a visual, or maybe for other folks that learn more visually, how all of you are connected and like your particular roles.
How it works.
Yeah, I think it would be pretty complicated to provide that. We can definitely provide that, but if you have specific questions, definitely Alona and I can help connect you with the right people. So please reach out and we can give you more information.
All right, guys, if we don't have any more questions, we got to close out our break rooms. Any more questions?
I think I see one.
Miss Cecilia.
This one, I just wanted to ask the question. Wouldn't using electric for the trucks and buses would be cut down emission more than diesel?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's right.
So anyway, possible, maybe you all can work on something and see if we can get that, with even have the partnership with someone and see what we can do about that. And that will cut down the emission even more.
Yeah, and I'll just mention that we don't have a truck program ongoing right now, but we will be opening one hopefully in the next year.
Yes.
We'll really be interested in knowing, where the community sees trucks congregate. Where do they congregate? Where can we do our best, in outreaching to the owners and operators of trucks that actually are in the community. So
yeah, they are here. Please believe me, because right here in my own community, it's a truck that comes through here.
Great. Well, we'll be asking for input as we prepare outreach plans to the 8617 communities for sure.
And Gavin Newsom, he's replacing regular vehicles by 2034 with electric vehicles. So
that's
I'm
right.
Sure,
they should be.
So I'm pretty sure that's going to go in compliance as well.
Yeah, and that should go. They really should cut down a whole lot. of
Right,
emission
Ms. Cunningham.
pollution coming through here.
Well, it's up to us to find a solution, Ms. Cunningham, and that's what we
That's
do
right.
every time we at this,
So
every
we
time
gonna
we
have
at
to
this
have.
meeting.
All right, I agree with that, and we're gonna have to have more action.
Right.
You know, we just can't sit down and just talk about something constantly and don't do nothing about it.
Amen,
That's
Ms. Cunningham.
Thank you, everyone. Michaela.
You ready,
want to
Martha?
wrap up? Yeah, we just have
Yeah.
Michaela wrap up for us. Thank you.
Thanks, y'all, for all that amazing feedback. You know, we finally get into the strategies and all the information we've been waiting on. So yeah, thanks to the Air District staff for coming out from the engineering division, the strategic investments incentives division, and then the technology implementation office for presenting. I think all the presentations were great and super helpful. I hope everybody got to ask some questions and found this activity informative. And yeah, we got your notes and your questions on the Jamboard. So if we didn't get to them live, then people will definitely make sure to answer them. But now I'm going to pass it over to Anish for an update on the community mapping project.
Thanks, Michaela. Good evening, everyone. Anish Rana with the Air District. I'm going to give an update on the East Oakland CERB Community Mapping Project. Next slide. As a reminder, we launched the map in mid-September, and 4 local CBOs have been helping conduct outreach to the broader East Oakland community to add information to the map. As of tonight, we've received 304 pins on the map. From our preliminary analysis of the pins and the comments received so far, we've identified several themes materializing, such as concern about odor from illegal trash dumping and burning throughout East Oakland, air pollution coming from the Oakland International Airport, auto body shops, unlicensed food production, cannabis growing operations, heavy duty truck traffic, and the 880 freeway. We've also received pins and information about places where people gather in the community, as well as the places that the community views as important assets that they want to protect. Next slide. We have a little over 1 week left before we close the map, which will be midnight on Sunday, October 22nd. Please excuse the typo on this slide. It'll close at midnight, Sunday, October 22nd. So there's plenty of time left for you all to get into the map, share your knowledge, and add pins. As I mentioned at the last meeting, we are able to compensate you for up to 2 hours of your time to do so. And you should have received a payment request form from me last week in an email that you can complete and submit to Just Cities to receive your additional stipends for this work. And just as a reminder, there are 3 types of pins you can add to the map. The first one is locations where people gather, especially seniors, young people, or community members with increased health risks. The second is community strengths and resources, which are locations that represent the creativity, culture, history, heritage, and strength of the local community. And the final option is to enter a pin to indicate an air pollution concern, meaning air pollution coming from buildings, industry, trains, trucks, ships, etc. With this map, we're really trying to identify those sources of air pollution that the Air District has the ability or regulatory authority to do something about, and that can be addressed by through this CERB process. Once the map is closed, the Air District, Communities for a Better Environment, and Just Cities will begin analyzing the data collected, and we'll present those findings to you all at the next CSE meeting in November. And of course, this information will be one of the sources of information that will help inform that strategy development process once the CSE moves into that phase soon. Next slide, please. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Hey, Anish, there was There was a chat that Cynthia Gutierrez would like to add pins. Did you want to answer that?
I'm sorry, I did not see that chat. I don't have the chat up.
Okay.
Apologize. Could somebody read the question for me?
She just said, I would like to add pins. So
Yeah,
can
I
you
was
respond
just
to that?
going off the slide that you said there's still opportunity to do that, so I was just responding.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You have until midnight on Sunday, October 22nd to add pins. If you need a link to the map, I can provide that. I'll put that in the chat. Also, too, I did send out an email asking if folks wanted to schedule any time for a tutorial or to walk through how to use the map. If that's something you're interested in after this meeting, feel free to reach out to me directly, and we can do that as well.
Okay, thanks, Anish. Jerry, Charles?
So Anish,
Yeah. Oh,
for
I had my hand up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Did you call my name? Because I came off of mute to speak,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
okay.
sorry, Charles. Jerry, you can go first.
Okay. So, we've been doing this survey in the community mapping and the pins, and a lot of community members are tired of the pollution, the trash, the encampments and, the smells. And when we're doing this survey, we're getting their raw opinion about what they're feeling about their communities. And so I understand that you said, I think you said, now I don't want to quote you, but you said something like, you guys can't do anything about that. But I also did trainings and showed my volunteers and showed the community members the PowerPoint presentation that you guys showed us about how when trash, there are certain chemicals that can be released in the air when certain types of pollution or trash is when it heats up, like when we were having those heat waves, and it told what kind of chemicals are released in the air. So I'm confused. Like, either we're gonna address this or we're not. Like, am I supposed to go back? These community members already feel like ain't nothing gonna be done about it. I don't want to go tell them, oh, you're right, that's true. So I'm confused. I understand factories, 880, they already, identify with those things, but they're upset about all the illegal dumping and trash that's in their community. So are you saying, even though that is apparent, we should not be reporting about this, even though your slides show the chemicals that's released in the air, when certain things that are in those illegal dump piles or whatever is there can be expose them to something that produces poor air quality? So I just need some guidance on that. Thank you.
Could I ask who is speaking?
Anish, this is Jerry.
Oh, yeah. Jerry is referring to an email that Jerry is one of the CBOs that received a grant to do outreach for the community mapping project. And earlier today, I sent out an email to all of the CBOs, asking them if, alerting them to the fact that overwhelmingly, we've received a lot of comments and pins about illegal trash dumping and trash burning and some of the health and safety impacts that are associated with some of the homeless encampments. And I do want to just clarify that it was not my intention to say that we do not want to report that, or that we don't want to, or that we don't think that's important, and that's not something that we are going to try to address. I was just trying to ask the CBOs in this last week if they could try to focus on trying to encourage or help the the folks that they're doing outreach with to think out beyond just the trash element and identify other sources of air pollution, because when you look at the map and the number of comments, the ratio of like how many comments that we're receiving, it's overwhelmingly that we're receiving a lot of comments about the trash. And so it was more of just a comment that that issue is already well represented in the map. And we wanted to encourage, ask the CBOs to try and work, to try and help
Think
community folks
outside the
identify,
box.
identify other sources of air pollution concerns in their communities. And so it wasn't to say that, and then also to respond to whether the direct a challenge of like dealing with trash pickup and all that falls outside of the Air District's purview. But through this CERP process, and this has been made clear to our co-chairs in meetings with our leadership, that while it is outside of our regulatory purview, we can act as a partner to bring the necessary or the appropriate authorities to the table to try and discuss how to address those or solve those problems. I hope that answered your question and alleviated some of your concerns, Gary.
And just to make note, a lot of the unhoused want the same thing that you want, but there's no viable solution to it. So there have been talks about solutions, but however, they haven't been applied yet. So.
And I just want to back Jerry up on that to ask us to look for other sources of pollution, and that's not what the community is asking for, is not a correct representative of what the community is asking for. And it's up to the community to define what equity looks like and feels like to them. And if they saying clean neighborhoods like up there by Sheffield or up there by Diamond is what we want, then that's what the community is asking for. And we can't direct those. And I understand what you're saying, Anise.
Yeah, excuse me if I can please clarify. I did not ask you to ask folks not to report those. I asked if also, in addition to that, if you could try to ask them, to add pins for other sources. So it's more of an addition, not subtracting one or the other. That was more of what my request was, because ultimately the information that we're gathering through this map is supposed to help us identify key focus areas that the CSC will try to tackle to address in terms of like developing strategies for the CERP. And so right now we have, basically if you look at the map now, we have the way that it looks is that it appears that we have over, a lot of pins identifying areas of, trash dumping or illegal trash dumping and so on, and very few pins on other sources of air pollution.
And that's just a testament to what the community's concerns are. And so I understand what you're saying, and I see that we over time, but I just want to support the fact that our job is to back up what the community's concerns are, and then to get you guys to work in partnership with the other agencies to help fix it. And so if we're saying that we want you guys to help fix this and to bring the people to the table to help fix it, then that's all we're asking for. And that's something that you guys are actually tasked with.
Absolutely, and that is our intent. And actually, this afternoon, I did speak with my manager, who's not here today. And just in our conversation was we discussed that, this map will be a powerful tool when we do bring those partners to the table to show, look, this is overwhelmingly, a concern that the community has up and down. So, it is our intention to be that partner to try and do that. And we are going to use this. We do see that, the information that has been collected can be used as a powerful tool to help start that discussion. But it was just my email and request was more to try and encourage or to help try to get that message out that we also want to collect information about other potential sources of pollution that we can also, that the CSC can identify as a source, as a focus area to identify strategies for.
May I
Oh, go ahead.
reframe this for a second? Yeah, may I reframe? So it sounds to me like what Anish is saying is that he hears us and he knows that it's loud and clear that there's issues with like the dumping and trash and homelessness and things like that. So what he's doing and other people with East Bay Air Quality Management District are doing are working to find the right groups, whether it's city or other parts of the city or county, to bring in to focus on those. And because of what the Air Quality Management District's main job is, their expertise is the air polluters, like air pollution that you can't see. We know the community sees that. It's, we see that when we walk out of our door every day, but there's stuff that we can't see that's out there that's more dangerous. And I think that that's what Anish and the Air Quality Management District want to make sure that we know. They hear us with all the other things they're bringing in, those people that will be the right people to help us with that part. But he wants us to continue down the path of looking at the air quality issues and the polluters from that, so that we're not missing that. But I think that to me, it sounds like Anish hears our concerns for the community that they see every day that are affected by it. Thanks.
Can I just get clarification? Because there was a slide, and Anisha, I'll follow up with you, but you guys showed a slide that shows what type of chemicals and had a name to them comes from some things that are illegally dumped or pollution from dumping and trash, and that type of stuff. So I'm a little confused about, I understand you want to identify other sources, but most of the people are just going to what they immediately see and feel, about what they see, the illegal dumping, and then also the presentation I showed them that talked about the type of chemicals that are released in the air from different sources of pollution. So that's what we're rolling with. So I can get more clarification offline. Thanks.
Yeah, please, because I'm not familiar with, I don't think that wasn't the slide that was shown at the orientation for the grant program, was it?
I'm gonna show you the PowerPoint that was shown about pollution, period, and air quality. And it showed the lives that are dying and how East Oakland has the highest, chronic conditions, higher than Alameda County as a whole, higher than Oakland as a whole, East Oakland. And they showed the different chemicals that are released in the air. And I don't know who showed it, but you guys shared it. And I showed it because it is a major cause of why we're doing this, right?
Again, it was not my intention to say that this is not an important issue and that you should ask folks not to report this or to add pins for this. It was just also to ask folks, like, in addition, if are there any other sources of pollution, so that we can get more diverse comments.
Oh, so they can do more than one. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Yeah. Folks can go in and enter as many comments or pins as they want.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Anish, Jerry, I have to cut in here. Marina, if you could put in your question in the chat, we will find time to respond to it. We should move on to our EJ announcements now. At this point, Ayana, do you want to get us started, or we could, if not, then we could have Carly go ahead.
Carly, go ahead. If there's time enough, I will make an announcement, but go ahead, you guys. You guys need the floor. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Ayana. Yeah, I just wanted to announce that there's going to be a CBE community meeting 1 week from today. So that's the 19th on a Thursday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. It'll be over Zoom. If you have any questions, you can contact Esther or I, and I'll put our emails in the chat. And there's going to be a demo using the community mapping tool. So, you know, if you want to come to that, feel free to. And then one other thing, CBE Toxic Tour is going to be on October 28th, and we'll start at 10:30 a.m. at our address, 100 Hagenberger Road. And if you have any questions, you can contact Adele about this, and I'll put her email in the chat as well. And then lastly, Susan Silver, who is a part of East Oakland Collective, is holding a Resilience Hub event with Movement Generation and CBE on October 17th, which I believe is a Tuesday, from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. And you can contact Susan more about that event. And there's going to be, I'm going to also do a demo of the mapping tool there. And there's going to be a free dinner. East Oakland resident attendees will receive a $25 gift card, first come, first served. And there will be a presentation to introduce the resilience hubs. Thank you.
Thank you, Carly. Charles, we have you up next.
Yeah, thank you for that announcement, Carly. Y'all got a lot going on, so it's a lot of activities for people to get engaged in. Actually, we're going to be having a block party on October 14th, this Saturday, and you can collect 2 hours of the extra work time collecting surveys at the block party, or actually participating in the block party, where we'll have jumpers and haircuts for the kids. We'll have snow cones, a book reading time. We'll be giving away some bikes, and we are encouraging all of our CSC members to come and participate, and because they're going to have a great time, and it's for the kids to get them involved in what this environmental justice fight is really about, because it's them that's going to be ruling the world, not us. So let's get them involved as early as possible. So anybody that wants to participate can just reach out to me, and I will make sure. Massam, could you make sure that everybody gets the block party invite?
Yes, Charles, I just shared it in the chat.
Thank
And
you very much.
yeah.
And if you're looking to join for mapping as well, this is a great opportunity. If you wanted to
Yes.
get in on a mapping experience, this will be a great opportunity.
Where is it going to be? The
It's going to
location?
be at Tassafaranga Park, 85th Avenue.
From 10 to 3.
From 10 to 3. And anyone who wants to volunteer, participate, you can also get your 2 hours of extra BACMA money.
Okay, that's on the 14th, huh? From 10 to 3.
Yes.
Okay.
Tyra,
Thank
you
you.
have your hand up.
Yes, I do have my hand up. Sorry for the long take. Using my phone, I have to. I have a question with all the information. I just tried to do the tour, but it didn't, like when I tried to go in, it doesn't allow me to do Microsoft. So how do I do the tour? How do I sign up for that when I can't access Microsoft?
Oh, so I apologize for that. So I'll check that link.
I can't hear you. You're too low.
I said I apologize for that. I'll check the link, but you can copy my email down and we'll get you on the tour.
Okay, which is your email? Because there's like 3 people
There's-
sent, like it's like 3
Oops, sorry.
different emails.
Put it in the chat.
Yeah, it's in the chat, but it's okay. Okay, you
It's,
just put it there. Okay.
Esther at CBE Cal. Yeah.
It's what again?
It's Esther at cbecal.org. I'll put it again right here.
Okay. Yeah, 'cause
And Marina is asking if it's okay to include information on a table with the mapping, different languages.
how do I do that?
Yeah, for the other events, you can still use Esther's email, and if it's pertaining to a certain event, she'll forward it to the right person.
Okay, and
That
there's one other thing for the form that was sent for the stipend. How do I actually go by like putting the information in? When I do stipends, I never really filled one of those forms out, so I don't want to mess up. So how do I fill that out correctly?
Tara, you can use a word processing software, Microsoft Word or Google Docs or anything to put your information in. If that is not possible, then you can also print it out and handwrite it and send it to me.
Okay, and and I send it to the at cbecal.org.
You can actually send it to me. I'm putting my email into chat.
Okay, yes, please do that. And
Thank you.
I'm gonna just print it out and fill it out and send it to you that way.
Llénalo y
Yeah.
te lo mando así, de esa manera.
Yeah, and I can follow up with you later. We're actually at time. Cynthia, if you can put.
My question is like 30 seconds. So
Sure.
this block party flyer, it has a QR code. I went on it, but it actually takes you to the mapping thing that we've been talking about, and it doesn't take you to the survey. So I just wanted to flag that. And maybe there can be an email sent out with the correct QR code. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys so much. Before we close out, does anybody have anything they want to put on the table?
I just want to say that the link works now.
Okay.
And was there a link for signing in for attending today's meeting? I missed it.
If not, it's
I can-
recorded, so we can actually see too.
Yeah.
We got
Oh
you.
no, I just thought that we needed to sign
Sí,
in.
a ver si me lo
every
pueden
time.
mandar porque yo no pude llenarlo.
Maybe I can have it sent to me because I couldn't fill it out.
Attending today's meeting.
Well, don't
Tengo
worry
una
about it. We
pregunta.
definitely got it recorded. We got you. But if there's anything else, does anybody have anything they want to put on the floor before we get
Tengo
out
una
of here?
pregunta nomás que no
I
pude
have a
llenar.
question really
Okay.
quick. I
Go ahead, Marina.
couldn't fill out the form from
I just
today.
wanted to say to each and every one,
Miss Cunningham, you cut out, love. You gotta unmute. There
Yeah.
you go. There
I
you
was
go.
just saying, I just wanted to say to each and everyone to remember to love one another.
That's right.
That's right. Well, you guys, I had an announcement, but I'll save it for the next meeting. But I want you guys to think about what action we can take next time there's a fire. So, we had a lot of respiratory issues because of the last fire, and I wanted to take some action. So the next meeting, I'll bring it up, but I definitely think that instead of talking, we need to do some kind of action. So we'll bring that up at the next meeting, but I really appreciate everyone being here. I want to thank everybody who presented and everybody who's been in here participating. The love was real today. Anybody else? Charles?
Thank you so much, everybody, for showing up and participating. We love to hear these voices because
Okay.
that's what it's really about.
Michaela?
Yeah, I just echo all of that. Thanks, y'all. And the breakout rooms had some great feedback.
Thank you guys so much. This was a wonderful meeting. We'll see you guys next month.
See you at the block party.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
See you at the
Bye.
block
Thank you
party.
all. Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.